nationally recognized speaker, facilitator, and author Steve Klein sits down with the most fascinating difference makers in Dallas-Fort Worth. Hear from top CEOs, local entrepreneurs, and key playmakers in business right now with your host, Steve Klein.
Daniel Hudson Burnham said, "Make no little plans, they have no magic to stir men's blood." Hi, I'm Steve Klein, and welcome to PlayMakers Talk Show. In the studio today are three guests who make big plans and have the magic. Our first magic playmaker is a messaging architect and believes by changing people's hearts, you are able to motivate and move them into action. While our second playmakers are the founder and also the CEO of a winery based on tradition, romance, and family. With us today is the CEO of a company that produces the Thanksgiving halftime shows for the Dallas Cowboys. While our next playmakers run the most awarded winery in Texas, just recently having won 3 gold medals and more, which we're going to talk about. These great playmakers are Jim Kirk. Jim is CEO of Corporate Magic, and Paul V. Bonarigo, who is founder, and Paul M. Bonarigo, who is CEO of Messina Hof Wine Cellars. And we're going to begin today's show with Messina Hof. We have 2 generations of vintners, as I mentioned, with us today. Paul V. Bonarigo is a founder, and Paul M. Bonarigo is a CEO of Messina Hof Wine Cellars. Messina Hof is a leader in the establishment of the Texas wine industry and one of the fastest growing and most award-winning wineries in the state. Established in Texas in 1977, the rich winemaking heritage of the Bonarigo family dates back 6 generations to Messina, Sicily, the Messina Hof Wine and Resort in Bryan, the Messina Hof Hill Country and Manor House in Fredericksburg, and the soon-to-open Messina Hof Grapevine are dedicated to producing premier award-winning wines, and that is underlined with quotations. We'll see about that in a moment, and offering tourism destinations based on tradition, romance, and family. The Urban Winery will be located in Wallace Hotel at the corner of Main and Texas Streets in the heart of historic downtown Grapevine, and is expected to open in late 2014, which I understand about mid-December next month. Paul, welcome to PlayMakers Talk Show.
Great to be here.
Glad to be here.
Paul, the son of the CEO, you began working in the family vineyard at the age of 8, so you've been doing this for a little while, and you're now CEO. Was it really predetermined that you would run Messina Hof Cellars?
I wouldn't say predetermined to run Messina Hof. I definitely predetermined to understand and appreciate wine and the wine industry. It says 8 that I started working, but that's, legally I started working at 8.
I'm sure you were running around the vineyards doing things when you were a toddler.
Just like my 2 children now, from the very beginning, it was much like the Sicilian family heritage. We work into the family business from very young. I did every aspect of the business, from the winemaking to the viticulture to the marketing to the restaurant, everything. But as I was growing up, I had a strong desire in my heart to go serve. So I knew kind of as I was going into high school that I wanted to go and join the Marine Corps, and that's why I wound up going to the Naval Academy for college and then commissioning in the Marine Corps. I always knew I'd come back at some point. It was just a matter of when. And so things turned out perfectly for me to come back in 2010, and it's been great ever since.
Well, I'm going to ask your dad a question in just a moment, but you brought something else that I was going to mention later. Being a Marine, that was great training you had while you were going through boot camp and being Marine. How did you see that training that you received from the Marines as a help you guide Messina Hof wineries?
Absolutely. Although managing civilians is a lot different than leading Marines, but a lot of the organizational fundamentals and leadership fundamentals that you learn in the service are absolutely essential in business. And in today's world, and we're in a very competitive industry, not only for winemaking, but also for the tourism side of it. You've got to be cutting edge. You've got to have a team of people who will push the envelope. And so that's really benefited me personally, I think, and the business as we've been involved.
We're going to talk about the tourism in a moment. Let's go to your dad. You created Messina Hof back in 1977. What was your rationale for doing that, and why did you do it?
Well, growing up as an Italian American, I always appreciated wine. And when I saw the land and its availability of land and the tremendous influence we have of agriculture in the state of Texas and the free enterprise spirit in the state of Texas, I really saw there was no reason not to have a Texas wine industry. When I did a little bit of history, I realized that at the turn of the century, we had 19 wineries. Prohibition took all those wineries out of business with the exception of one. So I thought really it was an opportunity, and I had a PhD candidate at Texas A&M that worked with us, and that's what established the first vineyard in Brazos County. And we had 3 wineries back in 1977. We now have 350. We were last in the nation in wine production. We're now 5th in the nation. And looking forward, again, you look at tremendous availability of land. The Texas wine industry has an unlimited potential. And, with the influx of Californians moving to the great state of Texas, I think we've got a lot more potential to move up, possibly to 3rd within the next 5 years.
Well, you changed the reputation of Texas wines because it has improved tremendously because of Messina Hof. And I want to ask about tourism in a moment. But I mentioned earlier that you won some awards in Grapevine. We'll talk about your new location in a few moments. You also mentioned that you won 3 gold medals with the Dallas Morning News and just 24 recently in San Antonio. Talk about that and why you're so successful as being such a premier winery.
Well, the success that we've had in our awards, not only is it San Antonio and Texam with the Dallas Morning News competition, but with the San Francisco Chronicle competition, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo International Wine Competition. There's many competitions that we're involved with that we've had success, and I think it really goes back to the fact that at the core of who we are, and it's in our mission statement, that we are dedicated to making gold medal winning wines, high quality, and ultimately the only way that our industry and Messina Hof continues to grow is by producing high quality products. And so we put a lot of effort into selecting the right vineyards, working with our vineyard managers to make sure that the grapes come in high quality, and then throughout the entire winemaking process, our goal is to make high quality wines that Texans can drink.
Yeah, and our philosophy is that we don't want to be a gold medal Texas winery. We are a gold medal winery. Our wines could compete with French, Italian, German, Californian, and that's our goal from day one, was not to just be good within our state. We wanted to be good internationally.
Well, and I'll throw this in there too. Like the Houston competition in 2013, we were the top all-around winery. A lot of people don't realize what that means. We're the top winery in the world. We beat 943 wineries from 23 countries. So that not only was important for Messina Hof, it was important for the industry because it showed that Texas wines can compete on an international scale, and shows that we can sell nationwide. So.
The website, by the way, is Messina Hof, H-O-F, messinahof.com. Talk a little bit about the products you have, and as a kind of a double question, and also where anybody that's listening can purchase your product.
We make over 90 wines, and we have 28 varietals that we use to make those products. We make different styles to fit any consumer, and that's part of our mission, is to be able to create products that people can connect with. In terms of where it's sold, of course, at our winery locations, you can find all of our wines, but we are broadly distributed throughout the state and in seven states in the U.S. And you'll find us in most chains, liquor stores, many restaurants. And of course, we have direct to consumers that we sell to 23 states as well. So it's pretty wide base that we sell to.
Yeah, and our philosophy is that when you go to France, you don't drink Italian wine, and we think that we wanted to provide great Texas wines that Texans could be proud of. So we get so many international visitors, especially in the Dallas market, and we want them to be steered towards Messina Hof so that they can really get a good taste of Texas.
Well, I need to ask both of you, and I'm not sure I'm going to get a really exact answer, but for both of you, what wine is your favorite wine that you produce? And they're smiling at me while they're thinking about this.
Well, it's one of those. Each wine is like a child. I mean, when you work so hard to be able to make the wine, there's a special connection that you make with each one. So it's hard to say I like this one better than this one. I think each one of them has strengths. And so, especially with our winery, we do a lot with food and wine pairing. So I might choose one wine for this dish, or one wine for this dish or this occasion. So I love all of them. I think we have a special connection with our Paolo series because it's our premium wines, and those wines are hand selected by me and my dad. We walk it through the whole process. It gets the best oak aging. It gets the best fruit. So those wines we have a special connection to. But overall, we love all the wines.
Yeah,
And how about you?
And I think the port, because back in Sicily, my family makes dessert wine. And so I've always had a fondness to make dessert wine. And we revolutionized the process of making port because we're the only winery in the whole world that makes port without the addition of brandy. We get all of the alcohol derived through natural fermentation. It was a process that we developed. Other people have attempted to copy it, and they've had difficulty. And as a result, our ports are known all over the world for innovation. So it's something that we've hung our hat on, but I agree with Paul. It's just like a child. You're really excited about the next vintage.
Well, in the last few minutes we have, let's talk a little bit about the tourism and locations that you have, not only in Bryan, the Hill Country, Fredericksburg, but soon to be Grapevine. So talk a little bit about how consumers can get involved with Messina Hof.
Well, of course, come into our locations. They can get involved. Each location is a little bit different, but ultimately falls underneath the same design and foundation. Of course, in Bryan, we have the restaurant, we have a wine bar, we have a bed and breakfast. We do tours there. Really, the whole resort feel we have in Bryan in our state winery. And then in Fredericksburg, we do events there. We have the tasting room. We have a small 1-acre vineyard that we make traditional style port with. So the Fredericksburg area is kind of a tourism phenomenon all unto itself. And in Grapevine, we're going to have a wine bar. We'll have a tasting room. We'll have events spaces, and it'll be our first urban winery that's there. So they can definitely come and experience hospitality and tourism there.
And we're so excited to partner with Grapevine. I think Grapevine is the most phenomenal city in North Texas. When we started associating ourselves with them about 28 years ago, less than 20,000 people. And now when you look at Grapevine today and you see unbelievable hotels and we're going to have a shuttle service from the airport. So if you have more than a few hours of downtime at the airport, the shuttle will take you right to the front door of our winery. And that's the type of thing and the innovation that the city of Grapevine brings to the table.
I mean, it seems natural for you to be involved with Grapevine. So tell us again how any listener can get a hold of Messina Hof and either make reservations or get involved in any of your locations.
The easiest thing to do is just to go on our website at www.messinahof.com, like you were saying earlier. That's the easiest way to get the info. On there is our telephone numbers, and we do. It has all of our events listed there, so you can just go and peruse what we have going on, and then you can sign up from there.
And you could go to Messina Hof on Facebook, and if you go hashtag TX Wine, you'll get to learn more about the Texas wine industry, and we're very active in social media.
Well, Paul, thank you very much for being guests on PlayMakers Talk Show.
It's great to be here.
Yes, thank you.
Paul V. Bonarigo is the founder, and Paul M. Bonarigo is the CEO of Messina Hof Wineries. Don't go away. We have another guest. We're going to talk about corporate magic. We're going to talk with Jim Kirk, who is the CEO of Corporate Magic, and we're going to talk about halftime shows and a lot of major events that he's been involved in. So don't go away. Back right after this.
Cybersecurity is all over the news. PlayMakers Talk Show and 770 KAAM listeners are invited to join former Secretary of Defense Gordon England, Lieutenant General Harry Radigi, and 9 of our nation's top cybersecurity leaders at the 14th Annual State of Technology Summit on November 11th. This Dallas Regional Chamber Luncheon is co-hosted by the America's Future Series at the Sheraton Dallas Hotel. Our listeners receive special 50% discounted pricing and should register at the member rate. Please visit www.dallaschamber.org/events for more information.
Join the Girl Scouts of Northeast Texas for their 2014 Women of Distinction Luncheon presented by AT&T on November 19th. The Women of Distinction Luncheon recognizes outstanding women leaders and Girl Scouts for their contributions to the community. This year, the 2014 Lifetime Honoree is Jean Jones, and the 2014 Women of Distinction Honoree is Nancy Ann Hunt. Luncheon proceeds allow Girl Scouts of Northeast Texas to provide the Girl Scout leadership experience and support various Girl Scout activities and programs to more than 30,000 girls throughout Northeast Texas. To purchase tickets, visit www.gsnetx.org/WDL.
And welcome back to PlayMakers Talk Show. This segment should be interesting. We're going to talk about Magic. We're going to talk about corporate magic. Music composer, lyricist, film and video director, stage designer, musician, singer, commercial producer, special effects designer, meeting planner. Jim has done it all. And Jim is Jim Kirk, the owner, CEO, and founder of Corporate Magic. He's been a leader in the production industry since 1974 and continues to perform at the top of the industry with his professional team of event producers and directors. Corporate Magic, based in Dallas, is a world-class event production and message development company that specializes in one-of-a-kind projects. From a successful radio jingle writing career in the 70s to 80s, which saw him hit the Billboard Hot 100 and the American Top 40, the successful 80,000-person Boy Scouts 100th Jamboree in 2010, Jim has truly been there and done that. Since its founding in 1986, Corporate Magic has orchestrated some of the highest profile events in the United States. Jim, welcome to PlayMakers Talk Show.
Steve, thanks for having me.
Well, from the information I received about you,
you read that very well, by the way.
Well, thank you, and it was put together very well too for me to read.
Thank you. I worked at there very hard.
You're a recovering radio jingle writer.
Yes.
What was your 12-step program that moved you into developing Corporate Magic?
Making a living. Jingles were really hot coming through the 50s up to about the late 70s. Around 80, they started cooling off, and it wasn't a big industry anymore. And we were trying to make a change to go into more corporate theater, which I thought sounded really cool because you got to do everything, music and video and all these things instead of just music live. And so we did a show for the National Association of Broadcasters in Vegas. It was a big hit, and we thought, you know what, we could do this. And then we're fortunate enough to be selected by Coca-Cola to do their centennial a couple of years later, and the rest is history. I got the hook in that and just said, we're moving on.
Well, you had an interesting story prior to us going on the air about the name, the corporate name for you, Corporate Magic. Tell us how you came up with that, or how it was come up with.
We were doing a project for Coca-Cola. They had a chairman who's since passed away named Roberto Goizueta, and he had a great Cuban accent. I wish I could do it, but I'd have to be Ricky Ricardo to do it. But he was trying to introduce me one day to a bunch of Coca-Cola people and trying to describe what we did, and he couldn't. And he just kept saying, well, they do this, they do that. I don't know. They just do corporate magic. And I had a napkin. I wrote it down and thought, that's not a bad little name. Maybe we'll use this someday. So 2 years later when I bought the company, I said, well, we're going to be Corporate Magic.
Well, if you had to describe what you do besides corporate magic, what would you tell somebody? Or what do you tell somebody? What's your elevator speech?
I think that most people think of us because they think of the wild special effects or the things they've seen, the music, the video, the crazy things that have happened. The truth of the matter is what we really do and what's made us successful is we get embedded into corporations. And we get to work with the CEOs and presidents and other people to hear what are their opportunities, what are their problems, what are they really dealing with. And we've had a knack for going in and work with them to help them think through that strategically, and then tactically. How are you going to solve that? How are you going to get that message across? How are you going to change your corporate culture, or whatever you're doing, to be able to challenge those problems? And then we do that. And we help them think through that, and then we turn that into production elements of all different kinds, because eventually you have to get the message out and try to change hearts and minds. And one without the other doesn't work very well. But we get the idea that we're not there just to put dancers on the stage or something like that. This is much more important than that.
Well, you have a number of productions that are that people will know about, but apparently from what you just said, there's a lot of companies you've worked with that people wouldn't know about with what you've done for them. It's been internal for their company. Is that correct?
Well, many. I mean, for a lot of the things that you see that we do, if it's halftime or if it's concerts with Faith Hill or Keith Urban or Beyonce or some of these other people know about that. Sting, right? That's easy. What they don't know is what we've done for IBM or Land Rover or for Coca-Cola or for Sherwin-Williams or Kraft or any number of other companies who've come to us who, yes, they want to do production, but yes, they all had challenges they were going through at the time, and it makes it really terrific. That's the real reward when you're able to work with companies that have a big challenge and help them overcome that.
If you want to enjoy seeing a number of videos and a number of the things that Jim has done, go to his website, which is corporatemagicinc.com. And let's talk a little bit about that. I just mentioned there are some things that people wouldn't know about.
Yeah.
But what are some of the real exciting things that you have done that people especially here in Dallas, would know about?
Well, of course, here in Dallas, when you just think about Dallas itself, we've done the halftime productions for many years, a dozen years, for the Cowboys for Thanksgiving Day. So when you see that broadcast again with Keith Urban, or it's Beyonce, or it's the Jonas Brothers, or this year Pitbull, or whoever it's going to be, we produce those.
And those are almost as big as the Super Bowl productions.
Those are very big, and it's a real challenge getting them on the field and off the field in time, so we don't get hit by the NFL financially for that. But we also produce the stadium opening, the grand opening, for the AT&T Stadium. A lot of other things for the Jones family. We've done things for the Final Four. We've helped with getting the Super Bowl 45 to come here and produce that, and a lot of different things where the city of Dallas has been reaching out to try to get different business to come here, and they will turn to us summarily to get that done.
Well, one of the things on your website mentions that you are a messaging architect.
Oh, yes.
What is that?
I think that is, as I alluded to earlier, that people will come to us and say, here's what we got to get across. We've got to change people's hearts. We've got to change them from feeling this to feeling that. We've got to change them from thinking this about us to thinking that about us. And that is no small task. You have to really be able to dissect what those elements are, to understand people, what moves them emotionally, what moves them intellectually, and be able to put those two together in powerful ways that will grab people, and then support that with the right type of background, facts, and figures and other things that will give them the confidence to be able to move on what their gut tells them they want to move on. So we are able to put those pieces together brick by brick by brick. Really, many times, Steve, when we do an event that's 4 days long, we look at it as one speech. And we are starting on day one with the audience on what they will accept now. And so we reach them on their terms, and we build it brick by brick, emotionally, intellectually, and take them through. So by the time they're through and they get on that plane, they're going home, we want them to be thinking what we want them to be thinking and feeling what we want them to be feeling. And we feel that we can do that if we're able to do it in just the right way.
To a large degree, as I was listening to, it's almost cult-like. You're taking their brand and you're putting a tremendous amount of emotion to it.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, emotion that wasn't there before, and you're helping to create that for them.
It's funny, isn't it, that over the years, a lot of companies, a lot of CEOs, people think that emotion is something for children. We don't do that when we grow up. We grow out of that, and they're missing the boat. The people who have really been successful are the ones who have captured the emotion of a product, whether it be for Coca-Cola, whether it be for Starbucks, whether it be for an automotive company. Give them the facts and figures, but boy, you better put that as number 3, 4 on the list, because you got to create an emotion. The CEOs have to have an emotion. The company has to have an emotion. The event has to have an emotion. You got to touch their hearts first. If you don't do that, you never grab them. They're not going to pay attention to what you say, and they're not going to buy eventually what you said to do.
And this is really, in a lot of cases, turning around a company in terms of what their message is
Absolutely.
all about. Now, you've been doing this for 30-plus years, and you've had a lot. You've mentioned, you dropped a few names of some of the stars you've worked with and some of the events you've done.
Yes.
What are your 2 or 3 most memorable that you've been involved in?
I think that when I think about that, I would have to kind of decide on what is my litmus test for being memorable. Coca-Cola Centennial, one of the biggest, if not the biggest corporate event ever, with huge cast, all kind of thing. It was crazy off the charts. Another one, the Boy Scouts Centennial a few years ago. I tell you what, Steve, if you can't stand there and look at 80,000 boys on a hillside with candles, talking about their God, talking about their country. I was looking at the stage we had created that was over 1,000 feet long, screens 60 feet tall, LEDs with all kinds of production, just amazingly huge. But the real show was when I turned around and looked back in the faces of these boys and saw them with tears in their eyes and heartfelt. I tell you what, it still chokes me up just to think about it. That was something else. The other one that really I think was amazing was when IBM came to us. And they were having a little bit of a struggle. This was many, many, many years ago. And the Global Software Group had a gentleman named Dan Lautenbach, who was the head, and said, we're getting beat up by the competition. We've got to rethink what we're selling, how we're selling, all that. We went in, was part of a very small team that helped them design what they were going to do differently. And we created what was called IBM e-business universities. And literally that was to go around the world and try to turn that ship on a dime, which everybody said was impossible, and come up with the messaging for that, which was a lot of motion, a lot of education, and taking that to thousands of people on a series of trips around the world, a roadshow, if you will, that went out and made a huge difference. That company, starting the next year, started doing double-digit growth for the next several years. And So that's something I was very excited about because of the difference it made. We've had some other things like that, but that does your heart good.
It's amazing as I'm listening to what you're saying. It's almost as if you are putting together a major motion picture that's only seen one time.
That's it.
And you're putting all the time and effort into making that happen. That's absolutely amazing. Well, there's other companies that do what you do, and I have a guess in terms of why you are different, but why would you say you're unique or different compared to other companies that do something like this?
I think that, number one, we get it. I really think a lot of production people come to it because it's fun to do production, fun to write music, fun to do video, fun to do this, fun to do that. It's fun to see all that stuff happening. Hey, I get that. I love that too, but that's not the point. You don't get it if you think that way. You have to understand you're doing that all to be able to send a specific message and touch people in the right way. There's a real art to doing that. I think the other thing that makes a difference with us is our team doesn't come from a monolithic type of approach of just being video producers that came into this. We have people from Vegas, people from Broadway, people from Disney. We have people from the motion picture world, from corporate America. We have all these people. And that makes a difference because then when we go out and we approach a project, we come at it from a lot of different angles. So people will say, I can't believe you do the opening to the Rose Bowl parade. Well, yeah. Well, what are you doing concerts? I thought you did corporate stuff. Or what about this product reveal? Or they're looking at crazy things, some of that we do. And I say, we learn something every time we do a television special or something. We're always learning things that apply to that industry and then put them together and bring it to somebody else's project. And I think that we are able to do something that truly is creative, different, unique, which is important because you got to get their attention. It's got to be different. And I think that makes a big difference in what we do.
There's one word I was looking for, and you didn't say it, but it was there, and that's passion. It just comes through in your voice, the way you're explaining what you do.
Yeah. It's I don't know if you're just born with that, but I think some people are. But it's you have to have that in this business. You have to have it because it's what drives you, right? Because we're always having challenges. We in our business have challenges every single day, and you've got to have a passion that will not allow you to blow right through that. You've got to be driven to want to find those answers and to push to find those answers. I'll tell you something else that I believe very strongly, that we have a passion and a belief and a desire to do quality, even if our clients don't want it. We always say, I don't care if they don't want it, we want it. And so we have that. And when you go out to find people, you got to find people who have that. And then you can teach them the other stuff. You can't teach them that passion thing. So I always want to hire people I can trust. And then I trust those people I hire to turn them loose and use all that good passion built up in their hearts to make something special for us and for our clients.
Well, about the last half minute we have, real quickly, you have a couple of unique events coming up in Los Angeles and London. What are those?
Yes, we've been chosen by the Los Angeles Arts Center, the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, to produce their 50th anniversary celebration. It's going to be a giant celebration out there with lots of stars, a television special in this, and I thought it was pretty cool that Los Angeles, of course, has a lot of very, very good companies out there, and we were very honored that they would come to Dallas and ask us to select that. And then we're going to do that, and then we're going to London for the Salvation Army 150th celebration, and it's going to be 30,000 people coming from all around the world, and the O2 Arena over there is just crazy cool. And we're doing lots of productions, big, elaborate, fun, exciting, inspirational productions, and we're doing a lot of other productions all around the city. So those are bigger things. We're also doing things for Berkshire Hathaway coming up, we've worked with Warren Buffett and their company, and they're changing Prudential Real Estate to become Berkshire Hathaway, and JCPenney is going through a tremendous turnaround, and we're honored to work with Mike Ullman and the people there and assisting with them with some projects coming up in the next several weeks, and also with Sherwin-Williams on some projects. So we're not lacking for things to think about, that's for sure, and we're very excited about all those.
Well, Jim, this has been fascinating. I know you really get into it. Thank you very much for being a guest on PlayMakers Talk Show.
Steve, my pleasure.
Jim Kirk, CEO of Corporate Magic, thank you very much for joining us. You can also go to PlayMakersTalkShow.com where you can get all of the replays and past episodes. That's PlayMakersTalkShow.com, and we're going to be back next week with more Playmakers. See you then.
Who will Steve be interviewing next? Find out on PlayMakers Talk Show with Steve Klein every Friday afternoon at 3 on 770 KAAM. Hear this interview again by going to Steve's website, PlayMakersTalkShow.com.